If you're anything like me, you were probably wondering about this Poppy R4 in the first game of the draft. Because if you kind of took a look at the actual rest of the draft and the way it played out, it looked pretty dog shit. But looking a little bit deeper, you can actually see why this makes a little bit more sense than you think. And it's due to T1 making some intentional decisions about their draft such that they were willing to make these trades. So it's very obvious they pick at R4 here, and it's a support blind pick. Poppy support blind will indicate a lot about what your comp's going to be able to do, especially in the support role. And you can see it in game that he clearly struggled a lot with not being able to do much in the early game because his champ was just unable to really pilot. This is especially the case when T1 already know that KT blinded Rumble earlier in the draft, so any normal team would pick a counter pick top on 4 and then just give counter pick to support and respond accordingly. But what this is actually is a little bit of an interesting draft trap play by T1. By instead omitting the top counter pick available on R4, probably had a concern about KT picking Poppy themselves on 4-5. And with their two bans being, I would say, relatively important, being used on both Sivir and Ezreal, T1 are actually emulating a third ban by using the Poppy as a takeaway. KT, being, of course, another world finalist team, have enough brain cells to kind of pick something that's a good counter pick. And the usual response into something like Poppy, which is a defensive backwards type of champion, is to pick something front to back. Therefore, that's why KT opt for the Ashe Braum on 4-5. And it strongly establishes this exact condition for KT. Now that T1 have taken Poppy away themselves, and they have basically baited KT into picking these front to back champions, it automatically clears T1 to slam this Mbessa on R5. This is most likely why they opted not to go for things like Galio or Sion on 4, because that means KT would have just picked Poppy in 4-5 and the draft actually would have been bad. Assuming that they really wanted to ban both Sivir and Ezreal, it is actually better for Carrier to just eat shit here and pick Poppy on 4. It's because it's not about what T1 gains, it's about what KT isn't able to gain. And as you could tell, Doran had an incredible game on this Mbessa, and they valued that ability for the top lane to stretch its legs more so than Carrier feeling like absolute ass in lane. So that's why this draft makes more sense than you think.